One of my favorite pastimes is putting together puzzles, and my favorite part about puzzles is looking at the individual puzzle pieces. I love all of the details and intricacies on puzzle pieces, and it's almost as if each puzzle piece kind of tells its own unique story. Of course, when you put them together to make the whole, they can tell an entirely different sort of tale. So I want to share with you a couple interesting puzzle pieces. Here are my puzzle pieces. Do they feel a little familiar to you, like you've seen them before and you can't quite place them? Well, you probably have seen them, and you'll just have to take my word for it when I say that each of these puzzle pieces has a super compelling backstory. Some of them are full of triumph, others are a little bit tragic, but when you put them together, they make one of the most epic puzzles you have ever seen. So what do you say we try to piece this puzzle together? I think we could do it. So let's start with one piece over on this side. This red puzzle piece. When I look at it, I think about adventure and a clashing of cultures, and even a revolution. Its neighbor tells a very different sort of tale. This purple puzzle piece is all about the real estate deal to end all real estate deals. It doubles the size of our puzzle. Let's see what else we can add. Maybe this pink one goes somewhere down here. That looks pretty good. And I think we could fit something in this space. That looks okay. Oh, this orange puzzle piece? This one is really intriguing. It's all about conflict and greed and starting an unjustified war just for a bit of land. It also makes me think of a wooden leg that was stolen, which is a funny story as long as the leg doesn't belong to you. And we also have this blue puzzle piece that fits, I don't know, somewhere up here maybe. That looks about right. This puzzle piece makes me think of adventure. I think about two explorers and their guide who overcame major cultural differences in order to map out the great wilderness. I also think about families who risked it all in search of greater opportunities. Many of them reached their final destinations, but a lot of them had to stop along the trail and never got to the end. There's a little gap down here that we can fill in too. This green puzzle piece, this is like the opposite of our purple puzzle piece. This one is all about spending a lot of money, tons of resources on a little stretch of railroad. But that perfect stretch of railroad totally changed interstate commerce and transportation. And last, but certainly not least, we have our teal puzzle piece. This one people said was a mistake. They called it a folly, but it ended up being a treasure trove of natural resources. So, have you figured out what our puzzle is? If not, I've got a little clue for you right here. A map of the United States of America. And so often when we think of the USA, we think of the completed puzzle. We don't think about the individual puzzle pieces and how they fit together to build our nation. And that's what I want to talk about today. So this period in U.S. history is known as westward expansion because it kind of happens from east to west, like the way we assembled our puzzle. And there's actually another term that's very closely linked to it that I'd like to explore. This term is manifest destiny. Are you familiar with this? If you haven't heard it, it's okay. It was coined by this guy, John L. O'Sullivan. He's an author, a newspaper reporter, a columnist, and he wrote an article describing manifest destiny, and he said, "It is our manifest destiny to take this land and to grow to be the strongest nation that we can be." And he was talking about a war with Mexico. It's actually that little orange puzzle piece that we looked at. Now, his view was very controversial then, and it still is today. And I think that we can understand manifest destiny a little bit better if we look at the academic definition of it. So let's do that. So manifest destiny is the 19th century belief or doctrine that the expansion of the U.S. throughout the American continents was both justified and inevitable. Two loaded terms. So what did O'Sullivan mean? Well, when he said justified, he meant that as long as we have the might to take the land, we have the right to take it. Didn't matter if it was owned by another nation state. Didn't matter if other people, if indigenous peoples lived on the land, even if they'd been there for thousands of years. Because if we had the strength to take it, Well, then we should. He also said that this growth was inevitable. So, what does he mean by that? Well, in his eyes and his supporters, he thought that we were destined to expand, that nothing that we could do would stop it. It was going to happen one way or another. He actually said that as long as God is with America or behind America, then who could stop us? And the implied answer was nobody could. No one could stop the country's growth. There's a great primary source from this time. It's a painting called American Progress, right here, that does a great job of highlighting the pros and cons of manifest destiny and westward expansion, and I'd like to take a closer look. I just want to point out a few key details. You can see the figure in the center who looks very ethereal and light, and she sort of divides the painting in two. You'll see everything on the right-hand side is very sunshiny and bright, and we see signs of typical progress. We see ships, and we see railways, types of transportation. We see wires being strung for communication and technology. She holds a book that says school, and we see people cultivating the land. The other side paints a very different picture, no pun intended. It's very dark and stormy. You can see wild animals being chased from the lands where they roam, and notably we see Native Americans who are looking over their shoulders, maybe looking fearful or upset, and you get the sense that they're being forced out of their homes. Now, whether the artist's intent was to show that this lightness, this brightness, this good progress was driving out the other, the bad, or whether he was trying to show the pros and cons, the benefits and controversies of manifest destiny, I cannot say. But I can say that when we look at this through a modern lens, it does a really good job of showing us that progress is all a matter of perspective. For some people in this picture, manifest destiny and westward expansion were a good thing, and for others it meant sort of the ends of their livelihoods and the taking of their homes. So in our next class, we're going to spend a lot of time and a little bit more detail looking at all of the different treaties and purchases that came together to build the United States into what it is today. So really taking a deep dive into each of these puzzle pieces and asking ourselves, how did we get this land, or how did we take it? From whom did we buy it or take it? And how did it shape the American landscape? Thanks very much.